Today I'm going to show you how to make basic toy cars. These are some of the first things that I ever made as a woodworker. So I got this scrap piece of pine here that's going to be perfect. It's pretty similar to what I used to make those original cars. This is a leftover piece of a 1x8. So pretty good thickness for a car. You can go thicker, you can go thinner depending on the scrap you have. This is a pretty low stakes project, meaning your car is going to work. You're probably going to be pretty happy with it no matter how you design it. So let's just get into it. I'm going to draw some.
So these gift really well if you got any kids in the family. They also do really well at holiday craft fairs. Great way to get the whole family into the booth. Always nice to draw a crowd. And they're really pretty easy overall, so give it a whirl.
Okay, that one's dumb. We're not going to use that. Let's make that a little more workable. Okay, that'll do. You could, of course, go with the dragster design here, and you can make yourself a template as well. Just by cutting one of these out and using the same piece to make your pattern over and over and over again. So I'm going to use that.
I'm choosing to cut these out on my bandsaw because I think it's going to be the fastest. You could also use a scroll saw or a coping saw. If you don't have the preferred saw, you can always make rougher cuts and make it up with the sanding later, sanding things to shape. I didn't make things easy on myself here because I actually left the ripping blade on my bandsaw, which is used for making material thinner, ripping thin sheets of material, so I didn't put the scroll saw blade on this like I probably should have. I figured I could make it up myself with the sanding since I have a spindle sander I'm going to use to clean these up and shape them. Just getting the other cars cut out here.
This next step, I'm going to use my oscillating spindle sander, a tool I bought for saving time and doing things just like this. I would highly recommend if you have the money for one. I'll link to the one I have below. I think it's like, I bought it a while ago now and it's become extremely well reviewed since then, so that's cool. Don't have that, you got a lot of options when it comes to hand sanding. You can use tools like this that hold your sandpaper for you. I like this one because it holds your sanding discs. So I just buy sanding discs. I don't buy sheet paper anymore, and I attach the discs to these. I really like it. Here's another one. I bought a kit that comes with both of these. So you can use those, and they're good for, like, this has some ways to get curves. Like, you can use this edge here to kind of get some curves. Use a rough sandpaper to really bring these down to the exact shape you want, and you can get those lines off too if you left them like I did. You can always make a point of just cutting along the line itself. I didn't do that because my cars were already on the small side. You can see a little smaller than we did before, but that's okay. I mean, they work at all sizes and they look neat at pretty much all sizes too. Don't have that, you got a lot of options when it comes to hand sanding. You can use tools like this that hold your sandpaper for you. I like this one because it holds your sanding discs. So I just buy sanding discs. I don't buy sheet paper anymore, and I attach the discs to these. I really like it. Here's another one. I bought a kit that comes with both of these. So you can use those, and they're good for, like, this has some ways to get curves. Like, you can use this edge here to kind of get some curves. Use a rough sandpaper to really bring these down to the exact shape you want, and you can get those lines off too if you left them like I did. You can always make a point of just cutting along the line itself. I didn't do that because my cars were already on the small side. You can see a little smaller than we did before, but that's okay. I mean, they work at all sizes and they look neat at pretty much all sizes too. All right, and got these shaped nicely on the old edge belt spindle sander thing there. So now we're gonna do some hand sanding to break the corners, get rid of the rest of that blue, make it soft, and get rid of any lines that are still here from the sander. Alright, so we broke the corners, got everything much smoother. I'm gonna move along and drill holes for the axles. What we're gonna be using for the axles is these little craft sticks here. I'll drop a link to those. You might be able to find them in person at like a craft store, maybe even a little dowels basically. So we're gonna drill a hole, set my combination square to a distance that I think looks good for this car. So I'm gonna go ahead and make 2 marks, and then I will do the same for the other 2 cars. That way I know both my axles are gonna be at the same height. For the wheels, you might have guessed that we're going to use this dowel right here. It's actually a little thinner than what I used for these other cars that I showed you, so I think it's going to work well because I made the bodies of these cars a little smaller than I intended, so hopefully the wheels will match nicely. Alright, so we are coming over to the drill press. You can use a hand drill for this. I would recommend the drill press because it's going to make sure that you're drilling at a perfect 90 degrees. And it's going to give your car more speed basically because the axle is going to sit properly. So we're going to need 2 different bits for this. We're going to need a bit that matches the diameter of this axle. If you want to use a different dowel, that's cool. Just match the bit to this. And that's going to be for drilling holes into the wheels. And then we got this bit here. Oh, sorry, for me, this is a 1/4 inch dowel, and this is a 1/4 inch bit. This is a 5/16 bit that's slightly bigger than this one, and I think it's going to be good for having a little clearance for the axle to spin, but not too much.
I'm going to cut the dowels using my crosscut sled on my table saw. If you don't have a crosscut sled or a table saw, you could consider using the miter saw. I placed a stop block here, but it's not a true stop block. It's just a block placed for reference because I don't want to trap the offcut between that block and the blade. Funny things can happen. They get shredded, they get torn out, they get flung around. It's just not nearly as safe as doing it this way. I'd rather have slightly inconsistent wheels and do it a safer way. I'll show you some other ways to get these cut in just a minute. So if you don't have a table saw, you can always use a hand saw. Go ahead and clamp the dowel to the table like this. What I'm using here is called a Japanese flush trim saw. It actually cuts better on the pull motion than the push. Nice little precision saw. We're actually going to go ahead and cut the axles this way too. It's just safer. If you're worried about the angle on the end of the cut, it really doesn't matter much for the axle because we're going to go ahead and sand that flush anyway. So go ahead and lay out the body of the car, 2 wheels next to it, and allow some space for clearance. Go ahead and mark your piece, and clamp it, cut it. Go ahead and repeat that for your other axles. So we'll grab 6 total.
So the drill bit that I have that matches the diameter of the craft sticks actually doesn't have a brad point on it. I would definitely recommend that you use one that has a brad point like this to really grab the center perfectly. This one does not, so I'm just gonna use the brad point on this other bit to get it started to try to help guide this one right into the center. Otherwise, just be slow. Honestly, I find it easiest to just kind of eyeball the middle, draw a circle, and then use a clamp to hold this little piece for you. Whoop. handle.
Ta-da.
So here are my wheels, cut and drilled. They are not perfect, but they are present. All right, so now we're gonna swap out our drill bit to one that's a little bit bigger than the axle. So you may want to take care to put a board or a drill press table underneath this piece, because when you drill through, the other side might tear out. You can always sand that, but it's better to just avoid it in the first place. I actually already have a hole here from what I've been drilling in my sacrificial table, so I should be all set. Now that we have all our parts ready to go, it's time to assemble these. The way we're going to do that is we're going to take one of the axles, and on the end of it, we're going to take a pair of pliers, and we're just going to put some texture on the end of it. We're going to crimp it just a little bit. Just put dents in it all the way around. In addition to helping that slide in, it's also going to give little grooves for the glue to sit in and get you a better glue up too. You can actually hear it. There you go. So now we're going to take this stuff. Type Bond 2. Definitely recommend using that as your default wood glue. Nice and strong, pretty inexpensive. I'll leave a link to that stuff. Alright, so here's how we're going to do this. Put just a little bead of glue on this. Just a little bit. There we go. Doesn't take too much. You can probably work it in by hand, but if you want, you can use a flat surface like this, rubber mallet, very gently. There you go. Trim this axle. Actually, I won't trim it. You know what I'll do? Instead, I'll push the piece past and then trim off the excess. So I'm going to crimp a little further down. Another way to do it, hold it like you did earlier, and then tap the edges with the rubber mallet. That looks pretty good. Cool. That's one axle, let's do the other. Let's go ahead and crimp this. Let's crimp the other side. Now we kind of know what area to crimp, because we're going to have extra. That's one down. Get the other two assembled the same way. Alright, so we got all three assembled. Did the other two the same way. One of them is Not quite a fail, but you can see its belly is dragging a little bit. I didn't put the wheels down far enough. Slash, I did not use big enough wheels. But these other two are great. Nothing left to do but test them out. Okay. Yep. They work. Actually faster. So as far as finish goes, well, it depends on who you're giving this to. You know, you're giving it to a really small kid, like a toddler, maybe no finish is the way to go since it's going to end up in their mouth a lot. Just focus on getting things smooth. You can definitely smoothen out these wheels a lot more than I did. I really just wanted to get them built. So you could also, here's one more tip for another idea is you can actually have the recipient paint their own vehicle, you know? Kids might enjoy painting these themselves since they're basically a blank canvas. And then one more little bonus tip for you is if you want these to go even faster, you can actually apply this paste wax here. You can put that on the axles as you're feeding them through. Or if you leave yourself a little space like I did, you know, you can coat the axle here, push it, coat the axle over here. Another thing you can do if you want these to be heavier is you can add washers in between, like in between the body of the car and the wheel right here. Another idea for you. Yeah, you can get as serious as you want to with these, or you can make them super quick. They're a great first project. Definitely recommend this project to a beginner. If you learned anything or you want to watch us grow as a channel, please give us a like and consider subscribing.